here to talk to the youth, and what typically happens when Pope Francis meets young people is he throws away the script and he goes off the cuff, and he likes to have a little back and forth and using the language of youth. He already met with Polish authorities last night at Wawel Castle, and he spoke about the importance of being open and welcoming immigrants, an important theme in Europe and an important theme for the Pope. At the same time, the Pope said last night that he recognized that immigration is a complex phenomenon and that there is need also for international cooperation to help the situation of the countries from which those immigrants are coming. So he struck a kind of moderate tone last night with the Polish authorities on the question of immigration and accepting asylum seekers.
And in order to illustrate this station, an artist is finishing a painting, a large canvas with a large eye from which is descending a large tear, which this artist is completing. And along the eyebrow of the eye, Jesus himself is ascending the mountain of Calvary with his cross.
Pope Francis visited Auschwitz on Friday to pay his respects to the thousands of people who lost their lives there during World War II. And he spent most of the historic visit at the former Nazi concentration camp in silent prayer and reflection. Soon after his arrival, the Pope sat alone on a bench for several minutes with his eyes closed. Then, after meeting with a group of former inmates of the camp, he spent several more quiet moments inside the cell of Maximilian Kolbe. He was a Franciscan priest and saint who volunteered to take the place of a prisoner who was condemned to die. Ahead of the trip, Pope Francis said he wanted to be in silence. He told reporters earlier this month, "I would like to go to that place of horror without speeches, without crowds, only the few people necessary. Alone, enter, pray, and may the Lord give me the grace to cry." But before he left Auschwitz, the Pope wrote a brief message in the memorial book. "Lord, have mercy on your people. Lord, forgive us for so much cruelty." Pope Francis is the third consecutive pope to visit the site, where more than 1 million people, mostly Jews, were killed by Adolf Hitler's forces during World War II.
Plano police are investigating after vandals spray-painted several locations in Plano early this morning. The targets included a church. Fox 4's James Rose in Plano live with more. James.
Well, Steve, seeing a house of worship vandalized in this area is not a common sight, especially this church. It's 130 years old, and it's right across the street from the Plano Police Department.
I was crying all the way down 75, barely able to see it.
Senior pastor of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church in Plano, Isaiah Joshua Jr., drove to his more than century-old church in disbelief Wednesday morning.
It's very hard to see.
Someone spray-painted anti-religious symbols, pentagrams, the numbers 666, and upside-down crosses.
That we, the church, we're doing a great work for God, because it's only when you do a great work for God that Satan tends to attack you.
Well, tonight a local newspaper responding after not running a classified ad for a Christian store.
Cedar Springs Christian Store is closing its location on Clinton Highway. They placed an ad in the classified section of the Knoxville News Sentinel to try to sell their fixtures. The ad did not run in the paper when it was scheduled. One of the store's owners says they were refused because of the word Christian in their name.
My mom called to check on it, and the girl couldn't find it anywhere. Mom finally said, well, look under Cedar Springs Christian Stores, and the girl said, oh, hang on a minute. So she put her on hold, was gone for a while, came back, and she said, well, the ad didn't go through because of an offensive word. And Mom said, what would the offensive word be? And she said the word Christian.
Now, the News Sentinel responding today saying the entire thing was, quote, an error on their end. The News Sentinel also posted on their Facebook page saying in part, quote, we have had a business relationship with Cedar Springs Christian Stores and have run many ads as part of that relationship. We apologize for the error and any inconvenience this has caused.
Venezuela's government is planning to forcibly reassign some people from the private sector to work in state-run farms to deal with the food shortage. The Labor Ministry this week quietly issued a decree that enables state-run firms to pluck qualified workers from private companies and employ them in government agricultural projects. This comes after a vast food shortage affecting the country, forcing citizens to stand in line for hours for the supermarket just to get what they can. However, this is without the workers' consent. The president of the Fidesz labor movement, Florian Barrios, stated, "These types of actions represent a grave danger to the historical and cultural gains that workers have won over the centuries."
Millions of people in the 19-country Eurozone are in badly paid jobs. They are known as the working poor because many are actually living in poverty. For millions more, the situation is even worse. Homelessness, depression, suicide and crime are all being fed by a massive unemployment problem in the Eurozone. We asked some members of the public to talk about the fact that there are still 16.2 million people in the Eurozone who are unemployed.
Terrible. You don't have enough money to live. They give you only 1,000 euro each month.
I'm worried, I'm worried to, if I finish my study, would I work, would I not work, what kind of field should I do?
Well, I had my period of unemployment as well. I managed to kind of get out of it, but I must say it's probably not something that I wish for anybody to pass through.
The latest data from Eurostat, the EU's statistical office, shows that youth unemployment in the EU is running at between 20 to 30% in France, Portugal, Belgium, Finland, Romania, Slovakia and Cyprus. It is at 30 to 40% in Italy and Croatia. In Spain the rate is 45%, but the highest of all is Greece at 47%. This means that almost half of all young adults there are unemployed. There are concerns that economic uncertainty over Brexit could make the Eurozone unemployment problem even worse. According to many analysts, the EU's failure to tackle the Eurozone crisis has prevented the bloc from dealing with all other subsequent crises.
Muslims from all backgrounds in France have expressed concern of a possible backlash following the recent extremist attacks in Nice and Normandy. Hundreds of Muslims gathered for the traditional Friday afternoon prayers at a Grand Mosque in Paris amidst tight security.
I heard the Imam give his sermon in both Arabic and then in French. And it deeply moved me because he talked about the fact that we are Christians, Jews, Muslims together as one monotheistic religion, that we share the same roots. And then he said, dear, brothers and sisters, as Muslims, we do not kill. As Muslims, we do not take part in the kind of violence that took part just a week ago when the priest in Rouen was killed.
Certainly one cannot put everyone in the same basket, because 90% of the people are real Muslims. They have a good heart, and this is it. We're in France, a country that gave us everything. People are human. We can't do this. It is not normal.
وراءهم ما جاءوا به من مراكب وسلاح وعتاد غنيمة باردة بأيدي جنود الخلافة ولله الفضل والمنة.
أرسلوا لوكلائكم وكلابكم السلاح والمعدات وجهزوهم بأحدث التجهيزات وأكثروا، فإنها ستؤول بإذن الله غنائم بأيدينا، فستنفقونها ثم تكون عليكم حسرة ثم تغلبون. وهذه مدرعاتكم وآلياتكم وسلاحكم ومعداتكم بأيدينا من الله بها علينا، نقاتلكم بها فموتوا بغيظكم. إن الذين كفروا ينفقون أموالهم ليصدوا عن سبيل الله فسينفقونها.
CNN getting exclusive access to a fire drill involving firefighters. Now, here is the scenario. They tell us that the scenario is an explosion. An explosion has happened. These firefighters have brought in a firefighter who is hurt. He's brought into this tent for triage, and you can see that all of these are hazmat and medics as well. And this is triage. This is where they are assessing the situation, figuring out what is wrong, and also if there is anything toxic involved that they have to handle. Now, what's going to happen is they are cutting his clothes at this moment, assessing the situation, and he's actually going to be hosed down. Now, these are very tense moments right now because not only are they protecting themselves from whatever is on the body, they're also trying to protect the victim, in this case, a firefighter. Now, in the meantime, there are other patients also coming in this drill. You can see in this case, it is a woman who has been injured. Now, she is actually conscious, so she's speaking. Medics here and hazmat team members are asking her questions and trying to assess her situation. Now, we've learned that there will be 146 ambulances on the ready during the Olympic Games throughout the city of Rio. 4 of those will be dedicated to anything involving chemical, nuclear, or biological. Now, as you can see, he is being moved to the next level of this phase, of this triage. And what this means is that now he is ready to be taken by the medics and into the hospital. Now, once inside the hospital, he would be taken to whatever unit he needs the most, whether it be ICU or for any kind of surgery. But the key thing here is the following. These drills are paramount because the lessons learned here could mean life or death during the Olympic Games.
The UN Special Envoy for Syria backs the principle proposed by Russia and Syria of humanitarian corridors for civilians in Aleppo.
We do welcome any initiative aimed at assisting civilian population in war zones, in conflict zones, particularly in Syria today.
However, he added that it would be better if the UN operated those corridors because of its wider experience in organizing such humanitarian operations. Desperate civilians were helped to leave the city via exit corridors, while those who remain were given aid packages. In fact, civilians there are in such dire conditions that Russian servicemen were mobbed while handing out food and medical supplies, with locals grabbing whatever they could.
My house was destroyed by those terrorists because we supported the government. I have nothing left. We just want some order and peace in here.
The United Nations is urging Russia to leave the creation of humanitarian corridors around the Syrian city of Aleppo to the UN and its partners. Many suspect Russia's offer is actually a ploy to help the government gain control over the city.
Concerned about the definition, and I have talked to Moscow twice in the last 24 hours.
Secretary of State John Kerry is talking about an agreement between Moscow and Damascus to conduct a, quote, large-scale humanitarian operation in Syria, one that could displace hundreds of thousands of civilians already caught in the crossfire in the fight against ISIS.
It has the risk, if it is a ruse, of completely breaking apart the level of operation.
Aleppo and the suburbs have ended up in a difficult situation and are nearly in a critical humanitarian situation.
The United Nations has expressed concern that the Russians and the Assad regime are using the operation to clear out the city for military purposes, a forced displacement, if you will, which some have suggested would be a war crime. The White House is wary.
We're taking a look at Russia's announcement of the humanitarian corridors, but given their record on this, we're skeptical to say the least.
China and Russia on Thursday voiced serious concern over deployment of an advanced U.S. missile defense system in South Korea known as THAAD. At a security meeting in Moscow, Chinese and Russian diplomats called deployment a unilateral and non-constructive action. They say it's damaging the security and stability of the region and world. They believe the move is just a part of Washington's global anti-missile scheme, which clearly contradicts with the aims claimed by the U.S. and South Korean governments. China has expressed resolute opposition to the military deployment as it damaged China's security interests and broke a strategic balance in the region, while Russia responded by deploying a missile unit in the Far Eastern region.
The U.S. Navy is naming a ship after gay rights activist Harvey Milk.
What I'm going to do is call upon the gay community to come out now, keep the education going, keep talking one-to-one.
Before Milk became the first openly gay elected official to serve in a major U.S. city, he served in the Navy. So did both his mother and father. Milk was assassinated in 1978, months after his inauguration to San Francisco's Board of Supervisors. Media outlets have noted that naming a fleet oiler after a gay icon marks a big change in attitudes towards LGBTQ people in the military. Until 2011, the military barred openly gay individuals from serving. Within the past 10 years, Milk's legacy has gotten some significant attention. In 2008, his life was the center of the movie Milk, in which he was played by Sean Penn. The year after that, President Obama honored Milk posthumously with the Medal of Freedom, and in 2014, he was the face of a postage stamp.
Now to that breaking news overnight. 2 officers shot in San Diego, one of them killed. The other recovering in the hospital right now. A suspect is in custody, and officers across the country on alert after the recent shootings. ABC's Philip Minna has the latest.
A massive manhunt underway this morning after a San Diego police officer killed and another critically injured overnight.
Yeah, we have 2 officers down.
The shooting took place at 11 p.m. as the officers made a routine stop.
The officers are working on getting the down victims out of here. The shot is definitely a handgun.
SWAT teams and helicopters rushed to the scene.
The suspect is going to be close by. We need responding officers to lock down a perimeter and able to start looking for somebody hiding.
One suspect taken into custody. Other possible suspects being sought as residents are urged to stay in their homes. The shooting comes as police on high alert throughout the country following the killing of officers in Dallas and Baton Rouge. We've learned the officer who was killed was a father of 2. The other officer is out of surgery and is expected to survive. This morning, a massive search underway for a possible second suspect.
Yeah, be cool, just move with the groove. No funk in here, the beat way too smooth. Yeah, let's just do what we came to do. Just vibe with it, vibe with it, vibe with it. Be cool, just move with the groove. Let's go. No funk in here, the beat way too smooth. Let's just do what we came to do. Just vibe with it, vibe with it. Unleash the verbal blessing, prolific with the
Palestinians in the besieged Gaza Strip say they are not surprised by the increasing relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel after news revealed a meeting between Director General of Israel's Foreign Ministry, Dori Gold, and well-connected former general in the Saudi military, Anwar Ishki.
Saudis are seeking their own interests, and so this visit is not surprising to me. We know that Saudi money is invested in the US, which happens to be Israel's guardian.
The Saudi visit to Israel was expected. They already have American military bases in Saudi Arabia. All countries with American bases on their soil are helping Israel.
Anwar Ishki and former Saudi intelligence chief Turki bin Faisal have both held secret and public meetings with Israeli officials in the United States. Analysts say Ishki's visit is not to the benefit of the Palestinians.
This visit didn't come without criticism from the Palestinian side, who criticized Ishki's visit to Israel as normalization with Israel, between Saudi Arabia and Israel, without getting a price for this visit, without ending the Israeli occupation of Palestinians' land.
Many believe Riyadh's warming up with Tel Aviv will bring nothing but more misery to the people of the Middle East.
Arab countries have been normalizing their relations with Israel both publicly and secretly. Palestinians, especially in the Gaza Strip, will end up as the biggest losers because of these ties.
Saudi Arabia's normalizing relations with the Israeli regime did not come as a surprise to Palestinians. In recent years, Saudi officials have reportedly met Israeli officials in different venues under the auspices of the American administration. which is seen as a staunch ally of both Israel and Saudi Arabia.
Hezbollah Secretary General Said Hassan Nasrallah slammed Saudi Arabia for seeking to bolster ties with Israel. During a ceremony to honor late Hezbollah commander Ismail Ahmad Zahari in the southern Lebanese city of Nabatiyah, Nasrallah stressed that the Saudi-Israeli ties set a dangerous precedent.
يقدم بالمجان اليوم تطبيع سعودي مع إسرائيل.
There is Saudi-Israeli normalization of ties free of charge and without any benefits for Palestinians. Saudi Arabia is taking advantage of the weak Arab stance to expose its ties with Israel, and by doing so it's setting a dangerous example for other nations in the Arab and Muslim worlds. Your project has no future, and Saudi Arabia and its rulers have a chance to contain this situation. The Yemenis, Bahrainis, Syrians, Iranians and Iraqis are ready to negotiate. If you insist on the continuation of wars, you will be defeated. The project of the House of Saud will be defeated and disgraced.
And now Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has praised warming relations with Egypt and its President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi.
We welcome the efforts to advance peace by President al-Sisi, and we welcome the effort to incorporate other Arab states in this larger effort of a broader peace between all the peoples of the Middle East.
Now speaking at an event near Tel Aviv hosted by Cairo's envoy to celebrate Egypt's National Day, Netanyahu also thanked Sisi for his role in supporting Israel. Earlier this month, Egypt's Foreign Minister Sami Shukri paid a rare visit to Israel to meet the Israeli premier. It marked the first visit by an Egyptian foreign minister in 9 years. Cooperation between Israel and Egypt improved since Sisi took power in 2013. Egypt was also the first of a handful of Arab countries to recognize Israel back in 1979.